You're listening to No Filter. Welcome. And my name is Mia Friedman. In 2016, Constance Hall wrote a Facebook post that unexpectedly changed her life overnight. After having 2 children and then twins with her former husband Bill, Constance's bitingly funny and incredibly accurate description of what it's like to have a quickie when your little kids are running around on the other side of the bedroom door went viral.
You know what parent sex is, that 3.5 minutes you get in between changing nappies and making food, where you notice that all your kids are pretty distracted, where you realise it's been almost a month since you banged and you're starting to feel like flatmates, where your husband's seduction consists of one finger pointing towards the bedroom and the other hand on his dick.
That's when things became a little bit nuts. Hate groups were formed on Facebook, and the Daily Mail and other media started following the drama of Constance's private life, including a divorce, which she legally can't talk about, and meeting a new guy called Denham at a skate park. He had 2 boys of his own who'd lost their own mother a few years prior, and within months of meeting, Denham and Constance decided to blend their families and get married. Then, whoops, she got pregnant. Again, baby number 5. You couldn't make this stuff up, and it's provided endless fodder, not just for the media, but for her fans and her detractors. Then there was the infamous clash with the morning TV hosts who, like most of the mainstream media, simply did not understand the phenomenon that is Constance Hall. Constance had already had one brief crack at fame back in 2005 when she lasted just 10 days as a contestant on Big Brother before going back to her life in Perth as an apprentice hairdresser. But it wasn't until a few years later when she started a blog, mostly about parenting, using the handle Constance and Her Queens, that things became really interesting. The whole idea of Queens is about women being worthy of respect and validation, just for being ourselves. Constance believes that we shouldn't be grateful for scraps of praise and appreciation. We should expect it, and we should treat ourselves accordingly. To this, women said, hell yeah, and a movement of fans and followers began. Constance always wanted to reach as many people as possible, and now she certainly has. Off the back of that initial Facebook post, she's launched a multi-million-dollar business. Her first book, which she self-published, was called Like a Queen. It sold 175,000 copies. And for context, the average book in Australia sells around 2,000. She has over 2 million followers in her community of queens, and she also has a clothing label that specialises in mum tums, pants and skirts that consistently sells out, and released a new range just last week. We recorded this episode in front of a live audience here at Mamma Mia. Constance brought some people and a whole bunch of us stayed back after work one evening. And when she came into the office, she was like a queen. She'd just come from a shoot for this new range of Mum Tums clothing, and she had her hair and makeup done, and she was wearing one of her skirts with her big belly hanging over the top of it and this little crop top, and she had this big hair, and she is just stunningly, stunningly beautiful. She laughs easily and loudly. She's got a great sense of humour. And just a warning, it is a conversation between 2 adults with a little bit of swearing. So there's lots of beeps, but if you have little ears around, be warned. Here is my new friend, Constance Hall. God, it's good to meet you.
Thank you.
I don't want to freak you out, but I think maybe you're a prophet.
God, no.
Or so some kind of truth teller.
Maybe. I don't know. I hate the thought of people thinking that I'm wiser than I am, because then I start feeling like, I think there are a lot of things that I do know because I've been through a lot of stuff. But, yeah, when people start saying like, oh, my God, you know so much, I'm like, oh, shit, no, I do not, I
think a lot of people have been through a lot of stuff, but you have a way of articulating it, I think. And part of it, I think, is not having a filter that makes the rawness of it cut through, because it's not sanitized in any way. It's not polished.
Yep.
And I think I've had an interesting experience the last few days, because until recently I knew quite a bit about you, but I'd never read your words. I'd read a lot of other people talking
really?
about you,
Yep.
both for better and for worse. So you've got people who love you, you've got people who are dementedly obsessed with not loving you, which is a whole other thing that we'll get to in a little while. But there are a few people that have that gift of being able to articulate big truths. And I think there's no question in here. So as Tony Jones said, you can just take this as a comment. I think that you've got that gift. And it all started, didn't it, with a blog post you wrote on your Facebook account about parent sex.
Yeah, well, that was the first time that I went like super viral and picked up heaps of media attention, but I'd gone viral before. I just don't think it was like the kind of things that the media wanted to report on because it wasn't something that everyone would click on. So yeah, I had like quite a bit of like random success here and there, but I wasn't Constance Hall. Nobody knew anything about me. And it was kind of fun because I've gone back down through my page and I've seen things that I wrote before I wrote Parent Sex, and they had like 120,000 likes on them. And I was being like a sassy bitch in the comment section. Like guys are going, oh, I think you're a whinging blah, blah. And I'm just giving it back to them because I wasn't anyone. I was like just someone that's sitting at my bed going, get And so it was so fun back then. And then Parent Sex, like, even though I think it got like 140,000 likes, wasn't that much more than I'd had in the past, but it went like, and it turned me into someone that people recognise their name, and so then things slowly started to change.
I wanted to ask you about that. What happens when it goes from just about what you say to who you are, so that there's a whole Constance Hall aspect to everything that you say now? How do you remain unfiltered?
I struggle to, like, I'm not going to say, oh, I just don't care. I have to like consciously remind myself and go back to who I was before I had all this hate and all this controversy and all the Daily Mail to worry about. So, like, I feel like I used to be able to really put people at ease by going, like, I have my favourite auntie and she works in child development, and I always go to her and I'm like, oh my God, I did this and this. Is that going to be okay? My kid's going to be okay? And she always goes, darling, I've seen so much worse. They're going to be fine. You're an amazing mum. And that was awesome. And I used to have that ability I got that from her, and I'd pass it on to my readers. But now I can't, because it's like Constance Hall's kids have nits. Constance Hall, you know, and I made like a joke once about my kid's nappy being so full it was dragging. It was a joke. No one's nappy is so full that it's dragging. But I have now been known as the woman whose kids are so full that their nappies are dragging.
I'm sorry, everybody's had that moment with their kids. Anyone who's ever had a kid with a nappy has had a dragging nappy.
Where you just go like, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so now, and then after you get that for so long, you start to hold back. And so yeah, I have had to like consciously say to myself, and something happened last year was a really year, and I got really overwhelmed by a lot of things. And then something happened this year. I don't believe in New Year's resolutions or anything. It might just be like my happiness with my marriage or whatever, or my new baby coming. And I just woke up feeling like I don't care anymore. Like, this industry hasn't given me anything. It's given, like, my following has, but the industry hasn't.
When you say the industry, what do you mean? The media?
Like, they haven't like provided a career for me. When I first started like going viral, I was like, oh my God, this is all my dreams come true, because I always wanted to be a writer, and now, you know, like I might get offered a job and blah, blah, blah. And then I realised that like it doesn't suit me. It's not going to suit me. It's not who I am. But the following is amazing because I can provide a life for me and my kids with that. But yeah, so I just went, who gives a shit then, like, about what all the media say? And something really did actually just snap in me this year, and I thought maybe it's the hormones or something. I was just like, I don't care anymore.
How old are you now?
34.
Well, I was going to ask in terms of the level of feedback that you've had to contend with since you've started to go viral and you've become Constance Hall in quote marks. It's about survival as much as anything else, isn't it? Just that if you cared about everything that was said about you, so you couldn't survive.
Insists. And my psychologist said this to me when I was having like another rough year. I think every second year is a hard year. And I was like, oh my God, you know, like, what am I going to do? And she said to me, you're like a racehorse and you're going round and round and round, and your brain is just constantly looking at potential threats and how this could affect this and how this is going to upset this person. She said there comes a point where your brain won't do that anymore because it just won't be able to. And I think that sort of happens, you know, like with the haters, they got intense, and they were starting their groups and putting posters up on walls and just like attacking my family. And then like and I was just like, can't sleep, like full on anxiety over it. And then one day it was just like, brain just went, no, these are just a bunch of sad losers. You can't care about them anymore. And yeah, so it's really nice to be able to rely on that flick in the brain that just goes, nah, you're done now. Worrying won't help.
Can you read Parent Sex for me?
Sure. You know what parent sex is, that 3.5 minutes you get in between changing nappies and making food, where you notice that all your kids are pretty distracted, where you realise it's been almost a month since you banged and you're starting to feel like flatmates, where your husband's seduction consists of one finger pointing towards the bedroom and the other hand on his dick, where you position the bed to have one foot against the door because for a loud bunch of kids, yours can be pretty quiet when they're sneaking up on people, where no matter how hot it is, you chuck the doona on top of yourselves in case someone manages to barge through the door and catch mummy and daddy doing yoga in bed. It's a pretty romantic scene, really, listening to Iggle Piggle in the background, knowing that your days are numbered when you hear the ad break. Men are amazing and impressive creatures. By sheer determination, it's inspiring how quickly one can manage to finish under such circumstances. Us women aren't always so easy. All the while gleefully thinking about how much of a sex goddess vixen you are and how your fella is finally going to stop being an ass for at least a whole day. Well, mine is pretty impressed, even if I just lay there, saggy boobs, belly pouch, hairy minge and all, he still thinks I'm amazing.
What made you decide to write that? And why do you think it went viral?
I don't know why I decided to write it. I just wrote it one day. I think it went viral because like everybody's husbands are like banging on about how they have shit sex or don't have enough sex. So like heaps of chicks were like tagging their husbands in it or sharing it, and then their husband, it was like this banter, and you know, like the comment section got pretty intense. And I was trying to think why it was so popular, like straight after I wrote it. And I thought it sort of reminded me of something that Oprah said, where she was going on about how like it doesn't matter who she interviews, like if it's Obama or Beyonce afterwards, they're like, is that okay? And she said that like that made her realise that all any of us actually want is like validation. And I feel like that sort of validated everyone else's shit sex lives.
It did. Because it's like people just want to be seen. And
Yeah.
people read that and went, oh, thank God it's not just me.
Yeah.
Thank
yeah,
God.
Yeah, totally.
And I think it spoke to a bigger truth as well in terms of the challenges of being a mother, but also being a woman and being in a marriage or a relationship and having to juggle those things, whether you're straight, whether you're gay. If you've got kids, it's that real dual identities battle, isn't it?
Absolutely. Like when you've been, especially breastfeeding, you don't feel like it. Like you just don't feel like it. I was talking to a friend today. Her therapist said, you just got to do it. And I've had a therapist say that to me before as well. But if you just don't feel like it, it's quite violating to just do it, you know? Like surely there comes a point where you go, well, if you don't feel like it, don't do it.
Yeah, which camp are you in when it comes to that? Because, you know, Bettina Arndt says we'll just throw the canoe in the river and start paddling. And basically she says women need to feel close to have sex, but men need to have sex to feel close.
Totally, yeah.
So at what point should you wait for your desire, and at what point do you just do it as a way to feel close? In the same way that you might want him to have a talk when he doesn't want to talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just think, is it that hard? Like if you don't feel like giving me non-sexual physical affection, actually giving that to me is not going to be as hard as me actually you when I don't feel like you. So you should do it first. You make the first move, put your arms around me, ask me how I am. You know, it's pretty easy. And then don't expect me to just lie there and go, let's root, when I don't feel like it, you know? Like my friend told me that her husband said that if you reject a man in bed, it's like the worst thing you could possibly do to him. You know, like it crushes his soul. Whereas like if I was like pestering Denzi and he's like, off, I'm trying to sleep, I'd just be like, you're lost. You know, like it wouldn't crush my soul.
Tell me about finding out that you were pregnant with this baby. Tell me about that day.
So we were in Bali and...
how long had you been together?
So yeah, it was like 6 or 7 months maybe. Try and make it sound longer than it is. And yeah, like I'd had a migraine that month and then I started to get my period. You know when you get like a tiny bit of like pink... And I was like, oh, it's a bit early, but I've got my period. So I don't know if we conceived the baby before that or if we were just being stupid after that because I thought that I'd gotten it. We were at his mum's house when that happened. And then like 2 weeks later, I still didn't get my period. So we were in Bali and I had to like Google like the Balinese word for pregnant because they were digital tests. And we were out at a bar and I thought, before I, have too much to drink, I'll go and do at La Mexicola. And I pissed on the wrong side and totally the test. And it was so funny because my cousin was there and they were buying a drink and my cousin said to Denham, "Are you nervous?" And Denham goes, "No, she pisses on a stick once a month. She always thinks she's pregnant." I'm not nervous at all. She's totally not pregnant.
When you always thought you were pregnant, since you and Denham got together, there's two ways to buy a pregnancy test. There's the way of, God, I hope it's positive, and there's the way of, God, I hope it's not positive.
Yeah. And I've always...
Which way were you?
I jump every time. So every time that it was negative, I'd go, actually, I'm glad because I really want to lose heaps of weight and get married and look hot. And then as the month goes on, the more that I start thinking, maybe this month I could be. And then I started getting excited again. But then I'd be like, no, I'm really glad. I just want to wait. So I was in two minds. I really wanted our wedding to just be perfect.
So you were already engaged at that stage?
Yeah, and we had booked the date and everything. But then people were saying to me how many nights have you and Denham been able to go out drinking with friends? So what, you'll be a little bit chubbier and you'll be sober. And that was true. So, and Denham's reaction, I was I showed him and I was like, I told you I was pregnant. He was like, well, there goes all of our fun. I was you're so romantic, babe.
Had you talked about having kids together?
We knew that we would have one child together. We hoped that we would, just because, I don't know, it felt like, I felt like his ex-partner had something, that they shared something, and me and my ex had shared something, and we're just so in love that there wouldn't be any reason for us not to. It was probably more driven by me. I felt like, and when I put it this way to Denham, we were sitting at a winery in Mugs, and I said, when we're 70 and we're looking down at all of our kids, won't we always wonder what ours together would have looked like? And he was like, when you put it that way, yeah, you're right. So it wasn't like I was fully in control and we're having a baby.
Yeah. It wasn't let's do this.
Yeah.
It was kind of it'll happen, but when it'll happen.
And when a man wants to have a kid, because when a man wants to have a kid, they say maybe possibly in the future. And when they don't want to have a kid, they just say no straight out,
Yeah. And so you eventually pissed on the right side of the stick.
And the following day, because I couldn't get it out of my mind. I really wanted to know.
Did you want to be pregnant this time?
At that point, well, because my period was so late, I'd talked myself into it so much that I probably would have been upset, but at the same time, I'm really resilient and really good at looking at the bright side of everything, and I probably would have started, exercising or something stupid like that.
So you found out that you were?
Yeah, we found out that we were, and then I think we told my sister because she was with us in Bali, and we just that was it.
You wrote about considering a termination though.
Yeah, there were definite times where, I don't know if there were real considerations. I think that both him and I would have probably felt pretty stupid if we did that, considering, in 3 or 4 months we might be trying again. So that would have been stupid. But there were times, because our relationship, even though we're fresh, we moved in together straight away and we blended all these kids and, so there's a lot of pressure. And so when, we'd have an argument and I'd be doing too much housework and I didn't think he was doing enough, that thought would be going through my brain, it took me so long to get independent. What am I doing? Going back. And when I had the twins, I'd started this 4-year countdown of when I get my life back. Because how when they're 4, they're good and normal.
Yeah, and they can go to they can wipe their own bum and
and they
put their own seatbelts
exactly, on. That's exactly right. Well, no one's wiping their own bums yet. And then I thought to myself, I'm turning the clock back, and I'm doing this all again. And I just don't want to do it on my own. I've done so much on my own. I've been so exhausted for so long that I was like, what if he changes? How a lot of men change when the baby comes out and they, I don't know the exact statistics, but my girlfriend's a psychologist and she said to me that when women get pregnant, whatever it is that men, whatever it is they hold over women, if they're abusive, they get more abusive. If they're drunks, they get bigger drunks. If they're controlling with money, they control it more because they feel like you're vulnerable, so they can. And so I started thinking, I don't want to be vulnerable. But Denham didn't change, and it was just my brain. So I wrote about it, of course.
I really thought that was so interesting because you've also talked about, in fact, booking a termination when you were pregnant with your twins.
Yep.
And a lot of women have talked about terminations and write about, the abortion that I had, and I've certainly done that. But there's something about there's still, even among people who are really pro-choice, there's a sense of there's good abortions and there's bad abortions. The good abortions are the ones that you have when you're a teenager or when the baby is not viable or when you're in really dire straits. The bad abortions are, you know, after IVF or after you've got kids. Like mothers having abortions is such a taboo still.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah. And
I guess we should be more responsible and not be getting pregnant.
Yeah, but there's something about how could you do that?
Yeah, like because now you know how much you love your baby.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's almost like that breastfeeding. Like, I'm not against breastfeeding, but it's the same with abortions. Like, I'm not against abortions, but, and everyone has that, like, but any woman who uses it as a form of contraception, it's just wrong, blah, blah, blah.
And if you have more than one.
Yeah. And it's just like, there's no rules around abortions. It's like, it's a tiny little unviable thing that can't live without you, and it's your body. And I just think, it's hard for me because I assume everyone I'm writing to has the same opinions as me, and then all of a sudden I'm losing like 100 followers a second, and I'm like, what?
Do you watch that?
Sometimes I write it like, so I know what triggers my anxiety. I wrote a post about how much I hated Trump, and I just went, like, all my American followers were just telling me to get fucked, and I was getting hurled abuse. But by the end of the day, everything had evened itself out, you know? But it made me really panicky. I was like, is this going to be the thing that, you know, like ruins my whole career? And it wasn't. So, yeah, now what I do, whenever I write a post, I always lose followers every time. But then as the day progresses and the shares go round, I'll regain them and, you know, either more or it'll, you know, just sort of sit. So rather than like looking at it go down, I just sort of write it now and just turn my phone off. I used to write it and then like check how quickly people liked them and what people were saying. But now I don't have that kind of time in my life. Like, I've got to look after the kids and stuff, and if that's going to upset me and it's going to make me keep looking and getting frantically, then I'm going to be missing out on, you know, like the kid's going to be late for school or something. So I just write it now and then I'll check. And Denim will usually tell me, like, he'll be like, oh, that post went really well, or he'll be like, you need to call your admins because, like, some bitch has just called you this and this and this. And
yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Do you, before you write a post, you seem to be very free-flowing. I have a thought, I have a feeling today, I'm going to write it. Parent sex, I'm going to write it. I used to be like that too. And then you go through some fires and you're at the bottom of some pylons and you accumulate some haters, and it can't not change how you approach that. How do you do it now? Do you sit down and go, oh, I mean, do you second guess? I know who's going to come after me. You know, do you listen to your, we call it our spidey sense, like that sense, that gut instinct that, how's this going to go?
I really try not to, but I do, obviously.
Yeah.
And like some dickhead blogger guy called me like the most emotionally unstable person on the internet. And that, like, now whenever I write a blog, I'm like, is that me being the most emotionally unstable person on the internet? And then I like try and wind it back and not sound so emotionally unstable.
Do you run it past someone?
No, never.
Never?
Never, ever, not once, because I would get offended. I'm really like, I don't like constructive criticism at all. I'm like, well, I'll take my stuff elsewhere.
Whose feedback or criticism do you listen to? Because there's a lot coming at you and anyone who writes on the internet.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't really take on anybody's because I'd work for myself. If I worked for a boss that
No,
was
but I
like
mean
a
your
mentor,
sister, Denim, Annalise,
they
your
don't
mum.
dare say nasty things about my writing.
But I don't mean nasty things. I more mean like, this is going to, like being
trouble.
Protective of you and
Yeah.
going, do you need this shitstorm right now?
Yeah. I guess I haven't really put my foot in the shitstorm for a little while because of that. So I feel like I've got really good instincts, and the people that I work with, they're not really like that. Like, I've followed you forever. I read everything. I probably read more in my market than anyone I know. So if somebody I work with goes, I don't think you should do it, I just sort of trust myself. Yeah, I guess. But I have. I mean, like, my sister was the one who told me that this woman wrote this horrible blog about me. And then all the comments were even more horrible. And she was like, ignore it. And I didn't. And I wish I did, you know. Like, then I read a post about, and I was like, I'm not going to mention her name. But then in the comment section, someone was like, who was it? And I was like, it was blah, blah. And then everyone went over to her page and started abusing her. And then all of a sudden, even though she's written this like huge, slanderous, nasty blog about me, I'm the bad guy because I've got the big following.
And then it becomes catfight, Constance Hall.
Yeah. And I was like, really? And she just got all this loving, like, finally someone's taken down Constance Hall. And I'm like, what? What have I done to, like, be taken down, you know? So I wish that I had listened to that. And then, like, since then, so many bloggers have attacked me, and I've learnt my lesson and just kept my mouth shut and not cared. And I know now that they're doing it because I think her following went up 10,000. You know, everyone wants to capitalise on all the people that hate me because like 1 million people enjoy reading my stuff. 4 million
And you're good
people
for
hate
clicks.
me.
Yeah, but you're good for clicks either way.
Yeah, well, there you go. Exactly.
On other people's websites.
Yeah, it's like my life is like bloody Married at First Sight, ongoing.
I wanted to get you to read a piece that you wrote about not having a good day. This is something that you just wrote a few days ago.
Day?
Yeah, this one.
Yeah. I'm not having a good day. No funny spin, no over-dramatisations, just a shit day. Today I don't prepare food with love. I do it with resentment. I don't hang out the washing with a smile on my face over a cute pair of shorts. I do it with pain over my huge tummy. I don't dote on my husband. I question how he could ignore my struggles. Today, the realisation that no matter what ham and cheese, banana and apple combo I come up with, it will only need to be reinvented tomorrow. Whatever dinner I choose will only be discarded by the majority of the kids, sinks in. Today, the smallest thing made me cry, and once I started, I couldn't stop. Today, the baby in my tummy kicks me, just reminding me that soon everything's about to get harder. There is nothing special about today. It's just Groundhog Day in a world where I feel overworked and underappreciated, like the only member of this huge family whose eyes and ears are constantly on everybody else's needs. Someone once told me that the internet isn't a place to air your dirty laundry. You can talk about your wins, but don't share your hardship because you're just looking for sympathy. Well, I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm just having a fucking day. And if anyone else out there is too, I want you to know that you're not alone and tomorrow is a new day.
Did you just bash that out and hit send?
Yeah.
Hit publish?
Yeah. It's really important to me as well because, like, when I go through my ups and downs in relationships, someone once said to me, oh, you know, like, everyone's kind of sick of the yo-yo life. Like, you're getting a lot of negative feedback. And that sort of made me go, okay, and it made me stop for a little while. But then I was like, no, that's not why I write, you know? Like, I write, even if I am the most emotionally unstable person, you know, like, I write because it isn't just beige, it isn't just happy times. And the internet seems to love the happy times and get all like behind it. But then like, you know, so I purposely make myself write stuff like that because it's the truth.
But when you say the internet loves the happy stuff, the stuff that resonates most, or certainly resonates most strongly for me, and that I notice that you get the most likes and shares from, is the real stripped back stuff.
Yeah,
it's the
so
selfie you post in the nude when you're pregnant.
Yep.
It's or on the toilet.
Yep.
That's the kind of stuff that makes connections with people.
Yeah, you're right. So it's hard though because like if you do it too much, people start just thinking that you're nuts. So like, you know, sometimes you go through a period where you're like just shit for a few weeks. You can't write for a few weeks straight about how shit you are. You'll lose so many followers. It's like, oh, you're making me depressed now, I'm going. So like, yeah, it's a tough balance. But yeah, you're right. You've got to keep it really honest. And I remember like sleeping on a friend's couch, like just having the worst time of my life. And writing about it actually feels really therapeutic because everybody's like, I'm doing the same thing, you know?
Now, you're a businesswoman too. You're very savvy. Would you describe yourself as ambitious? And I only ask you this because we've been having a debate about women who call themselves ambitious or call other women ambitious, how the word ambitious and having ambition for women is pretty kind of loaded.
Yeah, it has like negative.
Yeah.
No, I'm definitely very ambitious and I'm not ashamed of that one little bit. I'm not a savvy businesswoman though. What I'm good at is knowing who's good at things and finding them and getting them to help me, you know. Like I have a really good memory for a conversation that I've had with someone who's really good at commercial real estate. So when somebody says I can call on that person or whatever it is, but I don't retain any knowledge at all for business.
So you're a good delegator and outsourcer.
Yeah, I've got really, and I don't know if you know her, Mama Kin. She's married to John Butler. She's an amazing musician that lives in Margaret River where I live. And when I first started going like viral, she was like, she called me up and she was like, it's all about your team. It's not even like, she goes, 50% about you, but it's all about the team and making them people that you trust and people with integrity. And I was just like, I took that on board because I had over and I had sort of sharky people go, oh, I can make a lot of money out of you. So like now I'm just like I'm really proud of my ability to find really good people.
So the two main areas of your business, from what I understand, is your book,
Yep.
which I understand every publisher wanted because of your huge following. Yep. And book deals are made on social followings these
they are,
days.
aren't they?
And you decided to self-publish. Why is that?
Well, there was a few reasons. Firstly, they promised me that it wouldn't be censored and that it would be creative control, but I know how they work. It was secondly a financial decision. I get to donate money and I get to keep money and I get to...
Because you make, for people who don't understand, people might think, oh, of course you'd self-publish, you get to keep all the money. But if you also have to find a printer, find a typesetter, find a designer, distribute the book, work out how you're going to sell it.
I employed a publishing facilitator to do that, and that helped because I knew that, again, I knew my limitations. I wanted to write it, I wanted to fund it. It was like...
How much did it cost to fund?
Well, it was like the planets aligned, right? Because like my family doesn't have much cash. My mum and my stepdad broke up that year, and my stepdad, he said to me, he had a farm to sell. That's how they were dividing their divorce. So then my mum bought a house, and then my stepdad said to me, "Can you look after my money?" So I stole it. But he was like, because he's just like a bit of a mess, my stepdad. And so he was like, "Can you look after my money?" And I was like, "Sure, can I borrow 50 grand?" And he was like, he just trusts me emphatically. So he was like, "Of course you can." So he lent me that. I needed that. I was told that I needed 50 grand and I had no idea where I'd get 50 grand from.
And that's to print, to typeset, to do all the
to pay everything, yeah. And then heaps and heaps of hiccups along the way, like heaps, like PayPal froze our money with pre-orders, and then it was just printed wrong, books were printed without chapters, and so many things went wrong. God. Yeah, but now I feel really confident, and I still wouldn't have changed it because if you go with a publisher, it's their gig really. You just wrote the book.
But you get money up front. That's the difference.
Yeah. You get money up front.
But you have sold how many copies of that book?
That one sold 175,000.
Okay, so the average book in Australia sells 4,000, 2,000 copies. So that is extraordinary. That is like a bestseller 100 times over.
It was awesome. I was really blown away by it.
That obviously made a lot of money.
That made a lot of money. A lot of money came in and then a lot of money came out. And so I was like, and I have one really rich friend, and they're from the mines. And I was like, oh my God, I'm rich too. And they were like, okay, be careful, because money comes in and then money comes out and then money doesn't come in for a long time. And I was like...
So where does it go out to?
Well, it comes in, and then I bought a house. That's what I did with my money. I bought a house away where I wanted to live. And then there's your tax and the people that you have to pay, and... I don't know exactly where it all went, but it went. We toured the world and we didn't charge anyone for tickets for the tours. We donated 175,000. So I've had to do my finances lately, and I've been very surprised to learn that I might have about 200 grand left, and that's going on my extension for the new baby. So yeah, I was just like, I thought I was richer than that. Hopefully the next book makes me rich. I'll let you know.
More money, more problems. Part of your appeal, I guess, is that you've been very open about your struggles. You're very mainstream. Did your fan base sort of celebrate your success? Or in Australia, there can be a lot of suspicion and a lot of jealousy and resentment.
Absolutely.
Constance, you're rich now.
Yeah. And to a certain extent, they were valid in saying that because a lot of their problems I wasn't having. When the money was coming in and I was all like... I was like, I had nannies and I just sort of didn't have to do the normal struggles. But then that all went away and I don't have any nannies anymore. I've got my kids in daycare 3 days a week, which I think is a privilege. But so now I'm sort of gone back to, okay, cool, heads back on my feet are back on the ground. And so sort of understand why they'd be like, yeah, you're not relatable. But the fact is that I went through 32 years of being broke. So it wasn't about to change who I am. My agent... she said to me that she reps people who have been famous since they were 17, and she's like, and then they just don't they've always been this person, whereas because you've just struggled your whole life, not majorly struggled, but it hasn't been blessed, and then things got better, you're sort of fundamentally always going to be the same person, and I think that's true anyway.
Are you rich now? Still?
No, well, I've got no mortgage.
Well, that's great. That's pretty.
That's kind of rich, yeah. But in saying that, I went and bought a house in Margaret River, which was only 500 grand, which I know only, but it wasn't I was I'm going to buy a mansion because I was brought up really quite poor. Mum was a single mum and And I have got this fear of debt. So like my whole life I've just thought, imagine being like mortgage free and not having to worry. So then when people saw how much money I was earning, they were like, you could borrow and you could do this. And I'm just like, I'm not borrowing anything. I've never had a credit card. I've never had a car loan. I just can't. I just want to like live in my means.
Did a lot of people come looking for money from you?
Well, like people have tried to sue me for like ridiculous things. Like
no, but like, can you give me $10,000 for my this, or
really
can I?
Happen, to be honest. Like that, I was pretty lucky. I mean, my dad's dead. If he was still alive, he would have probably been like, car. I would have happily done that.
So you can't say now that money's still a consideration. Like you've got a family, you've got 6 children to support.
Yeah, and I earn a wage of $2,500 a week, and that's gone by the end of the week. So like it's not like the kid wants a new bike, we have to budget for that. We can't just go like, yeah, there's your new bike, sweetheart.
Yeah, so because I imagine a lot of people are like, oh, Constance Hall, you're a millionaire.
Oh my God,
you
wouldn't believe like the bills that I get sent. You know, like, oh, when you guys stayed here, you didn't pay this. And I'm like, what? Like, people just think that I'm really rich all the time. My daughter comes home from school and says, yeah, but the kids are all like, but your mum's rich. And I'm like, well, can you tell them I'm not?
People confuse fame with wealth.
Oh my God,
don't
all
they?
the time. Yeah. And that's funny, like, because I really enjoyed earning money and I will again. But like the fame, that's not as enjoyable, really. It's like quite hard. So people go, oh, she's famous, so she must be rich. And people, especially with like big social media followings, everyone, like when I first started getting it, I remember people's comments were like, what would she know? She's rich. And I hadn't earned a cent for such a long time.
I talked to Celeste Barber about this same thing. She said, just because I've got, I don't know, ridiculous, like you've got over 1 million followers.
She's got like 3.
Yeah. She said, you don't earn money from just having followers. You can convert it into commercial arrangements and stuff, but it's not just followers equals money.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Not that straightforward. And it's also the
like,
decisions you make around what you want to do.
And I didn't really want to do sponsored stuff, but nobody wanted me either. It was like they didn't want me, I didn't want them. So.
I feel like your fans and your followers, your queens. Well, firstly, I wanted to ask you, what was the philosophy in your book around queens and being a queen? How would you describe the queen philosophy?
That was just like the realisation that I had that we like completely turned against each other, and we are jealous and we're intimidated by each other, and we see each other's success. I still see it, like I definitely don't go be like me because I love all women. Like I still see a woman like who's blogging all of a sudden and she's getting like way more traction than me, and I'm like, she's not even that funny. It's like, she is funny, she is, and she's not ruining your thing. Got to try and remind myself of that. But like I've recognised this in myself and in everybody else, and then I've started to look deeper and learn that like society and the patriarchy is setting us up for this. And it's almost like victim blaming. Men walk around and go, oh, girls are so bitchy, girls are so gossipy. And it's like, you get held down for thousands of years and then tell me if you're not a to the man next to you, It's
true. It's the patriarchy's fault, Con.
Yeah, it is. It's not our fault.
No.
When we do bad things, it is not our fault.
So the queens are fairly devoted, and they're fairly being a complete understatement. At your live events, you have a tattoo artist and they get crowns tattooed.
Yeah, that was only one. It wasn't like a cult. But they don't get it. So I've always thought like you're not getting it for me, you're getting it for each other. We
thought we might try that at our Mamma Mia Out Loud live events, but we'd just do it with a pen.
A big M.
Yeah. But I find that, your fans occupy a real sector of the internet around you that is not necessarily connected to everything else. So when you write about something, and then the people who don't occupy that sector really don't understand you. So that the times that I've watched worlds collide, for example, when you were on the morning show and you did that interview and the host just didn't get you. They just didn't get your shtick, and you were just like, this is who I am, and I'm not morning hosting it up for you guys. This is just who I am.
Yeah.
Does it feel that you move between two worlds sometimes? Because you've got this level of fame, but the mainstream media don't get you at all.
Absolutely. And I don't really care because I think the mainstream media is dying. But I remember I said to my publicist who works in Perth, but she doesn't, because Perth's got like nobody, like publicists and stuff. And Dixie's just a legend and she works with bands. And she was like, do you want to go on the project? And I was like, well, What if they're nasty to me? Because I actually like the project. I really love Waleed. And it would break my heart to be there and for them to be like, you're an idiot.
They never would.
I don't want to be put on the spot. I mean, I'm pretty good at thinking on my feet, but at the same time, this isn't my industry. I'm not a celebrity. I live in the forest, you know? Like, I don't do this. And Dixie turns around to me and she's like, she'll forgive me for saying this, but she's a 60-year-old lesbian that is just swears more than me. And she goes, and I was like, what if, like they're mean to me? She goes, well, then you'll just tell them to get and you walk out. What's wrong with you? And I was like, it was so empowering. I was like, yeah, I could just tell them to get not that I would, Waleed, if you're listening.
You and Denim got together very quickly, fell in love. Tell me about that first day that you met.
So we actually didn't get together that quickly because we hung out for a while. I was trying to woo him, but he was ignoring me.
He did not want to be wooed.
No, he wasn't. Is
that right, Denim?
He wasn't in the mood to be wooed. So we hung out for I think it was about 7 weeks or something. Or maybe a bit less, actually. I don't know. It was a funny time because I came over to Sydney and came back and, he made it pretty obvious that he wasn't interested. I tried quite a few attempts.
To throw the leg over?
Yeah. We'd have a drink together and I'd when you sort of let them know that if they tried, you wouldn't reject them. I'm not in a rejecting mood. And he, ignored it all. And then, one night, I popped a Valium to help me sleep and we'd slept next to each other on the couch before, but I was I'm going to bed because I had too many friends staying on my couches and my house was just heaps of people staying. And then he goes, I'll come up there with you. And then I woke up at 2 a.m. and he was giving me a kiss.
Decided he was ready, finally.
Yeah, finally.
In the mood to be wooed.
Yeah.
You guys got together very quickly though.
And then once we were together, we spent 2 nights apart since then.
I watched your wedding video and Denim was talking about you spent the night before your wedding apart.
Yeah.
And how difficult that was. I think it's the only wedding video I've seen with footage of a small child having their bum wiped. Which just says everything about why I and so many others love you. You've written really honestly about the challenges of having a blended family. Mm-hmm. You've talked about favouriting of the kids and you favourite your kids and then he favourites his kids and then you think you should even it up by favouriting his kids but then he's still favouriting his kids. Yes. So then no one's favouriting your kids so you have to go back to your kids.
Yeah.
How's that evolved? Is it Brady Bunch?
Oh, God, no. And Dr. Michael Carr-Gregg says it's the Brady Bunch, that ideal is what actually makes it fall apart. So I have been a stepmom before, so I had an idea that it's not going to be easy. But I can't, I can't complain because Denim's kids are just angels. They're just grateful and appreciative. Kids are never grateful. Denim's kids are. They're little phenomenons.
The speech that he gave at your wedding when he cried made me cry.
I know.
That was incredibly emotional.
Yeah,
how old were they when they lost their mum?
7 and 11. So Sonny became very mature and responsible, especially moving in with his dad. Denzi has no rules and he is just
He's a free-range parent.
He is very much a free-range parent.
You don't strike me as a free-range parent though.
I've got my thing. I'm definitely more strict than Denim. I want my kids in bed. But Denim, because he's been so relaxed, his kids haven't needed it. Yeah. And there are so many things about his kids that I have to ask them, why don't you bash each other? And Sonny said to me, Sonny goes, Dad would bash us if we bashed each other. And I was like, it's so simple. I was like, why don't you dob? They never dob. And he goes, Dad wouldn't listen. And I was like, there's just these simplistic ways that he's just gotten by. No internet, no parent wars, no books. And it's just created the most beautiful. And I say this to everyone, and I think everyone has to actually meet them to see the way they look you in the eye. They sit with you. They thank you for everything. They're just sent from heaven. So I can't complain about them. My kids, on the other hand, are not.
But you guys have never got to be the sexy couple. When single parents get together, you're already parents. You didn't even have that honeymoon period. Yep. You were always parents.
And I think that's why it worked as well. Because if I met him and he wanted to go to cool places and do stuff that I just couldn't do, it wouldn't have worked. But his whole life has always revolved around his boys, and that's his idea of fun, and that's the same as me. My idea of fun is something that I can incorporate my kids with. And now that I don't have them every third weekend, I do we do things without the kids because his kids can be at home on their own. So we'll go to a nice restaurant. Not that we have, we've got a selection of 2 and we've been banned from one. So
why have you been banned from one?
It was the day we got engaged. We were a bit too drunk. And That's why we worked, because we were able to just go like, he was like, do you want to go to the skate park until like 11 o'clock tonight? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to do that. My kids would love that. It's exciting. So like, yeah, I think anybody else it would have been like, oh, I'm so drained by your lifestyle, gone. But
when people first started to talk about you as being a shit mum,
yeah,
did you listen? Or did you always know that's just not true?
I sort of always knew. After a while, it started to piss me off. And so I do think that maybe I was getting a little bit more justifying my parenting. I remember when I first met Denim, he said to me, it's so annoying that people think you're a shit mum because you're the opposite. And he was like, sometimes I think that you might market yourself as more of a shit mum than you are because you don't actually write about, you don't sit there and go, well, tonight I made lasagna and then I had my children in bed by 7 after reading to them. Who writes like that?
Like and share.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that what you are is honest, and it's interesting how confronting some people really find that. Is it mothers that give you the hardest time?
Yeah,
or
I
is
think
it
so.
men?
It's mums, and I think that it's people who are feeling bad about themselves. I've been there. I've been feeling really shitty about myself and like, you know, written something bad about a wag because her life looks perfect and, you know, I've done that. And so I get it. Like it's, you know, it is mainly mums. It's a lot of men, but I don't really care when the men hate me because I just don't care. Like you don't get me. You don't know anything about where I'm coming from.
You're here for the chicks.
Yeah, exactly. And so like sometimes when they've got a really good point, that's what upsets me. Like trolls don't upset me, you know, when like they say things like, I hope she dies in childbirth. I'm actually not upset. I'm shocked that someone could be so gross, but I'm not upset. It's when somebody goes, this is what I don't like about her. She pretends to be this, but you can tell that. And I think to myself, am I? And then I'm going like, I don't know. And then I'm like I don't like that feeling. So I think that the keyboard warriors are more like hurtful than the actual trolls, because the trolls everyone ignores, but the keyboard warriors listen to. And so I try and like write about other women in a way that is, you know, like people said to me like, how should I blog? And I've said to somebody, imagine that the people who are reading your blogs, imagine that was your daughter and you were dead and you had one thing that you could say to her. Would you be going, well, you shouldn't have done it like this? No, you'd be saying, this is going to be okay, that's going to be okay, your kid's going to love you anyway. So try and talk to people like you love them, like you love your children, you know, like they're just all a little bit lost and they're just all a little bit unsure of themselves. And if you can write like that rather than getting on the keyboard and just going, you know, I don't know this and this and this about you, then it can sort of slowly change. I know when you write a good article about somebody, you write a positive article and you share it with a lot of respect for the person that you've written about, the comments are respectful. It's like wildfire. It just spreads. But when you write something sort of a little bit nasty and vindictive or even just like gossipy, then it's inviting, you know, it's inviting that shit in.
My friend Rebecca Sparrow says, lift up what you love, don't denigrate what you hate.
Totally.
There's a lot more power and a lot more positivity in that.
Yep.
You get anxiety, don't you?
I do, yeah.
How do you manage your anxiety and how does it manifest for you?
Well, it's sort of changing now. Like it used to be anxiety and be really crippling and make me like go, oh, I'm having an anxiety attack. But now that I confront it all the time and I talk about it, it's sort of going away. But like I think today, like for little things, like I had this huge day and I haven't had a huge day in so long, and I had to get up at 6 and do makeup and photo shoots, and I just knew, something in the back of my mind knew that if something happened, I couldn't, you know, I've got all this stuff on me. So then I started to feel like I was going to be sick, and then like I got to the photo shoot and beautiful Denim's like holding like an umbrella-y thing over me like I'm this Indian princess, and I'm like, I think I'm going to be sick, like I'm coming down with something. And I actually did think that, but then I realised it was just pressure. So, yeah, it's manifesting itself, making me feel like I'm not well, but then it goes away.
Do you take medication or anything?
No, I did get one prescription of Valium since being pregnant, and Denim took them all. So
That's not supportive, Denim. So I just want to finish up by asking you about the new book. What's it about?
It's a lot about my love story, like really intimate details.
Sex details?
Yeah, lots of sex details. Annalise said to me the other night, she read, and she goes, it really turned me on, and now I don't want to have dinner with you and Denim.
Is there a part of you that goes, oh, how are they going to use this against me?
I think anything is sort of like good publicity. Like, I know it was written with good intentions. It's all about intentions.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I cringe is like my mum and my sister and stuff. Right?
And
like
your kids.
Yeah. Well,
Your stepsons.
That will be. Yeah, they won't read it. They don't read anything I write. But yeah, it's and then it's also a lot more about things that happened to me when I was younger. I don't know. My people that have read it to me have said it's really hard for me to like give it a phrase or whatever, or a genre. But people that have read it have said, I didn't know any of that about you. I feel a lot closer to you now. Whereas the first one was sort of more shits and giggles. So it'll be interesting to see the sales. I'm not expecting anything to be anywhere near as much as the first one because it was entertaining and funny and lighthearted. But yeah, like I personally feel like I divulged more and I opened up more. But I also know that like people do just want that lighthearted laugh, and I don't think it's funny. Don't get me wrong, but
it's very funny. And wisdom.
Yes, thank you.
I haven't read it yet. I'm just assuming that there's wisdom in there.
There is heaps of wisdom in there.
I hope to talk to you again, and I'm so excited about this baby. When are you due?
Well, I'm due. Like I don't like to admit when I'm due because I'm so big, but I'm not due till June.
That's not far away. That's only a couple of months away.
Yeah, I know, but it looks like it's coming like now. Like I'm going to sneeze it out.
You go to the bathroom and it's like, there's a baby in my underpants. Con, thank you so much for coming. It's been so gorgeous to meet you finally.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me.
Now, if you enjoyed that, can I suggest that you drop everything and go to Constance's Facebook page, and at the top of it is her wedding video. Please assign some time to watch it because it is absolutely glorious. I think it's the only wedding video I've ever watched where a toddler gets his bum wiped by the bride partway through the video. It's just, her personal style and her vibe on life is absolutely contagious, and it's a wonderful companion piece to this podcast. So just search Constance Hall on Facebook, and you can also follow her at Mrs. Constance Hall on Instagram. We went out to dinner, me and her sister and her best friend and her husband Denham, and we went and had pizza, and Eliza, our producer as well. We went and had pizza and wine, and I felt the baby kicking in her tummy. And I honestly just fell in love. I thought she was the most delightful, warm, authentic, smart businesswoman, human that I've met in a long time. And I was just so impressed with what she's built as a lady startup, what she stands for, and just her ability to talk in a way that is not polished or shiny or perfectly packaged, but that just has such hard-hitting truth and such reassurance. You know, I felt like I met a sister friend, and that doesn't happen every day. So yeah, I've joined the Queens. I think I might get a tattoo somewhere. Maybe I'll start off with pen, but yeah, I'll get it above my tramp stamp. This episode of No Filter was produced by Liza Ratliff. I'm Mia Friedman, and I'll see you and all the Queens on mamamia.com.au.